Ha, ha. Shields and swords, feel the wars, fighting my blood down to the core. Warriors from medieval age, fear the reign of night brigades. Crusades into the room, moving through the temples and tombs. Scared and placed, prepare to face Professor Awesome and the minions of doom. 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 Professor Awesome and the minions of doom.
Hello, minions. It's been a while since I netcast, and there are a couple reasons for that. One is I have been busy with Thanksgiving and really Christmas things. The other thing was that I started doing video comments on my classes, and honestly, after spending hours and hours and hours doing final exam comments, the last thing I wanted to do was to get before a microphone and camera again and start generally talking. But two things have brought me out of non-retirement. One is that I received as a gift from my daughter a new microphone, which my students who have to listen to my comments will no doubt be happy to have less background noise. And also, you know, it really encouraged me to get back on here, and start netcasting again. So hopefully the sound from this very loud vent above me that so many people have complained about, it's a dynamic mic, so it should cut back on that a little bit more, and I hope the sound quality is better, at very least less annoying. And the other thing was that I have some friends who gave me a subscription to MoviePass, and I'm still waiting for my card to come. It should come any day now. And MoviePass, for those who don't know, is a kind of subscription service to go to the movies. So you can attend a movie for the cost of the pass, which I think is $10 a month or so. You can attend one movie a day. And so I have every expectation that I'm going to end up seeing about every movie that comes out over the next 6 months or so, that I'm going to be there a lot, just enjoying the ability to go do that. So for that reason, I thought, well, it's very likely that I'm going to end up talking about those sorts of cultural events more, the kind of shared cultural events that I talk about here. And I knew that more content was going to come that way. As some of you know, I worked on a book that I'm in the editing stages of now on comic book adaptations of Beowulf, and several people have asked me to talk about these comic book adaptations of Beowulf in here. And there are other topics as well that people have asked about. So I thought, well, I'm having a lot of, I see a future demand for particular things, and I'm having demand now. But one thing in particular I thought I would sort of come back with is the one thing which has been so insistent, like it's culturally insistent. For weeks, every conversation I had started with someone asking me about this, which was, how do you feel about the latest Star Wars movie? And so normally I don't like to do film reviews of really recent films. I like to give it some time to think. But since MoviePass is likely to cause me to talk about these kind of cultural events more on the fly, I thought I would start off with this one. And just to be clear, there are going to be plenty of spoilers if you're afraid of those. And so I'm going to really talk about the problems with the film. And in that, I'm going to say something which isn't exactly, I think, clear at first, which is that I think it's an okay film. It did what it was supposed to do as a one-off film. Not a perfect film. There's serious problems. Probably the biggest plotline problem that should have been in the storyboarding stage, should have been nixed, was the entire sequence regarding the casino, which resolved absolutely nothing, did nothing except give two characters an adventure to have together, whereas you could have given those characters an adventure to have together where something of significance could have happened. But aside from the clear problems, here's what I want my Star Wars movies to do. I want my Star Wars movies to be a thing that I can go see with any member of my family, no matter how young they are, and be confident that I will enjoy myself and that they will enjoy themselves. And that is extraordinarily rare. It's extraordinarily rare. Most of the time, when we're looking at cartoons, there's, rather than fan service, there's adult service. There's little jokes for adults in them. And I just don't find those particularly appealing. Even when they're funny, they're more of like winks and nods saying, I know that adults are watching. Here's a vague sexual reference in this that children aren't going to get. And so Star Wars in recent years has provided this. And there are other series that have tried to, but I think really have failed at these. Almost all of these kind of teens rebelling against the adults who are keeping them divided sorts of, teen movies ask to be this. The Harry Potter series asked to be this. But they didn't really succeed at that for a lot of reasons that I don't want to get into. Maybe I'll do one on those and the problems with those sorts of movies. The movies that sort of pit the children versus the adults, and why that's a tired and not these days a good structure for a film. No, I just want to be in some way entertained. And this enabled me to do that, and so if I'm asking that, going with the kids, they enjoyed themselves, I enjoyed it, and that was it. But I really don't think that Star Wars has that small a pretension. If that was all it was intending to be, I think that it would be fine. The problem is it intends to be this thing that everyone's supposed to talk about. And there are two big reasons, there are actually multiple small reasons. I think that what's happened is we now have two Star Wars films in this, not counting Rogue One, that succeed as individual films and fail as parts of a series. Ironically, Rogue One succeeds where those don't, even though Rogue One is by its nature not what I'm looking for in a Star Wars movie, because I don't want to take my kids to a movie in which everyone dies in the end. And there are two reasons that it's a problem as a series. So I'm going to take Rogue One out of it, because I know that that's controversial among fanboys and fangirls. There are two big problems, and the first one began in the first movie of this series. And the first one is that Rey cannot fail, and that's a problem. A lot of people complained that she was a personality-less Mary Sue, and frankly, she continues to be that. I have zero interest in her. I do not care what happens to her. Every moment that she's on screen is a wasted moment, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. People complained, why aren't there more action figures of her? What action would she have? All she does is say, I'm going to do a thing, and then she succeeds at doing it. And this is a problem for the series because this leaves no possible real narrative tension. So presumably, we start off in the first movie with this idea that there's this potential combat between Kylo Ren and Rey. Now, if Kylo Ren had gone completely on a redemption arc and Rey had gone on a corruption arc, that would have been fine. But unless something changes dramatically, this most recent film makes that unlikely, and in fact would be jarring almost. And the reason that would have been better, in fact, the only acceptable way is we have the problem that in the first movie, we have Kylo Ren, who's now been trained by both Luke Skywalker and Snoke, who's an experienced person from the most powerful force-wielding family in the galaxy right now, who's doubly trained. by both the light side and the dark side, who then faces off against Rey, someone with no advantages, who is unable to, or whom he's unable to defeat. And in fact, he's the one who walks away from that first encounter scarred. She has no training. She has nothing in her background that would suggest that she should be able to win this. And yet, she comes in and immediately defeats him. And frankly, the planet falling apart is really the only thing that ultimately saves him. Why is this a problem? Well, this is a problem because what we need to have happen is we need some tension in presumably the third movie when they face off. The problem is, if we go into the third movie now, Rey has had more experiences, she's had some adventures, she's had some training, she's had some things happen that tell her how to do well in this, other than just being a junk trader on a desert planet, right? And now we're supposed to feel tension that she's able to defeat Kylo Ren. She defeated him when she do nothing. Now that she's trained, we're supposed to think, oh, we're worried about that. A much better way to do it would have been to have her go on a corruption arc and Kylo Ren go on a redemption arc, so that in the third movie we could have a line where she says, the now evil Rey says something like, "Oh, I defeated you back when I had no training. Now I have killed your master, and I am more powerful than you ever imagined." Then that creates some tension as to whether Kylo Ren can win. But when you defeat the heavyweight champion and you're untrained in the first movie, we shouldn't be surprised when after spending 2 more films, you then come back and you can still defeat the heavyweight champion now that you're better than you were even back then. It's just bad storytelling. It's a bad way to put together a series. It could have been fine for a one-off, but it's bad otherwise. And her inability to fail, their refusal to let her ever fail, she must always succeed, is what makes her so boring and unable to truly carry a movie in her own. So we have The Last Jedi, a movie in which failure is the central theme. Every character who we care about has to fail at what they want to do. They fail again and again and again. And I have to admit, I'm a sucker for stories in which the heroes fail and fail and fail and fail and fail, and yet somehow still succeed despite the incessant failure. Everybody fails, except Rey. Rey has to win. Rey has to succeed all the time. I don't care about her because of this, because she can never fail. So am I supposed to be excited for her, excited to see her story when she continues her unending winning streak? The only thing that ever causes Rey to not get what she wants is because one of her allies is not as awesome as she is at everything that they've ever done the first time they try. She is a terrible character by any measure. She's a terrible character. And to have her be a central character in a 3-part story is inexcusable. And some of you out there are mad and trying to defend her. You are just, your opinion does not matter to me. Honestly, if you are, she is inexcusable. There's no excuse for her to exist. The second reason that this fails, the second big one, besides this kind of problem of Rey, problem of the central character, is that the sort of systematic destruction, not just of the world that they have, but the systematic destruction of the rules of the world. So a lot of people have complained that in The Last Jedi, that no longer is, I went to Lightspeed, so that's my get out of jail free card. No one can track me through Lightspeed. I'm actually okay with that. I'm okay with the world developing, the world changing in that way. That's all fine. The thing that I'm not fine with is what has happened with the Force. And the reason I'm not okay with that is suddenly Leia, who, as far as we know, has no particular training in the Force. She is strong in the Force because she's a Skywalker, but she has no particular training in the Force. Now is able to just sort of do this. I'm flying around in space while in a coma. A skill which would have been very useful for other characters to have. Luke is able to do this sort of projection thing, something which surprises Kylo Ren, something which surprises everyone, as it should, because it's not been a power before. And what we see is happening here is the Force is literally just whatever you want it to be. So when Han Solo says in The Force Awakens, Han Solo says in The Force Awakens to Finn, that's not the way the Force works. The second movie says, oh no, that is the way the Force works. The Force does whatever we want it to say. It does whatever we want to do. This is just bad writing. Because what happens now, from now on, is every problem that you get into, how do we get out of it? The Force does a thing. The Force before had rules to it. They might have been ill-defined rules, but it was clear that there were certain things that the Force did, and there were things that the Force did not seem to do. Now the Force will just pop up wherever and do anything that the plot requires it to do. It's the kind of ultimate Deus Ex Machina, but unfortunately it's a Deus Ex Machina which deeply imbues the entire story, which again and again and again is going to affect the outcome, not just of this, but of every future Star Wars story. If this had been the last of the Lucas films, the pre-Disney films, I would say you must reboot. You must reboot. You cannot allow this to continue. At least Rey will presumably disappear as a character after this. But this kind of like the Force can do anything whenever we want it to, this kind of Harry Potter nonsense, no. That's not good storytelling. Because then we go back in time and we realize that everything that happened before doesn't make any sense. If that could happen, why didn't Yoda go and challenge Darth Vader by Force Skyping himself to the Death Star? Why does why do we have any sorts of problems that can't be solved by simply floating your way out of the situation? Why doesn't Darth Vader just float his way out of the lava? If Leia can float her way out of deep space, these are all problems which we haven't seen. Even the ability to sort of float and fly. This is not a thing which we've seen before. And it's not that it's new, because I think it's fine to say, oh, now we have the ability to track through light space. Problem is that it makes for bad storytelling. So I think in the future what we're going to see is a problem of any Star Wars films that follow the Jedi at all are going to be stuck with this problem. It would be very difficult to undo the damage that has been done. In fact, I think it's not possible to undo it at this point, short of doing some sort of reboot, which Disney cannot reasonably do at this point, at least not for another 10 years at least. The other, I think what we're going to look at is see more movies like Rogue One. Those have the chance to be good, where there's a universe that was built, but the universe is about these other characters. And those movies can rise and fall and be good or bad on their own merits and not be part of this sort of, be part of the general universe, but not part of this overall story arc. I was talking with a colleague the other day about this, and he said, you would think that they could get all a bunch of smart people in the room and write a better story than this. And I said, well, that's demonstrably not true, because Disney got a lot of smart people in the room, and this was what they came up with. And I think the reason for that is pretty simple. The reason for that is they all grew up on this stuff, and they're so deeply committed to it that they have their whole lives had these kind of fanboy ideas about what could happen or what could not happen, and they have to deal with other people who do that. They can't have the detachment that a writer really needs to have. And it's almost impossible to do that. I was dreading this film. I had no intention of doing any review of it, and yet the insistence of people asking me what I think of it has caused me to feel that I have to talk about it here today. So that's my off-the-cuff critique of Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and really the entire sort of series of episodes Sorry, I'm losing track here. 7, 8, 9. Yeah, that's right. And my oncoming dread of 9. My hope that it's simply dumb, but I can enjoy it, and my kids can enjoy it, and not that it can no longer hold any kind of special cultural place. All right, so I've also been asked, suggested, a lot of people, hey, we want to be more invested in what's going on in your life. What's going on in your life? Well, one big thing is I have this old beater truck, which I've had for years, and it finally died a few days ago. And so I'm buying a new vehicle. As my kids are getting older and people are moving out and going to college and things like this, getting careers, my need for a minivan or something like that is gone, and so I'm getting myself a much smaller vehicle. So that's a new thing. If you would like to donate that, I'll be taking donations any size, as small as $1,000 to $2,000. Just send them straight to me, and I'll be happy to take those donations for this vehicle. Today was the first day of classes for the semester, and I have a lot of students who've come by and talked to me who I haven't seen, and I've been really delighted to see them. And I've really enjoyed teaching my classes that I've started so far. I have a very varied schedule, which is going to keep me busy, but will be, I think, an intellectually rewarding semester. So anyway, those are a few other things that are going on. Thanks for joining me.